There is no silence.
Well, welcome back to another edition of Sunday Science, everyone. We're still going to be continuing on from last week's show where we started talking about laser development and how it is that they actually came about, when they started coming about, and technology that they've been introduced in. One of the first things I should probably bring up is should have made initially last week about the potential dangers of diode lasers. When I'd initially started talking about diode lasers, I was referencing very, very milliwatt range lasers when they were first produced. They can, however, be much more powerful this day and age, and it is absolutely a disclaimer that should be placed out there that there is not really any form of a laser that is not potentially dangerous, especially when it comes to your eyes. So I just wanted to go ahead and get that out in the air first thing, because it was brought up that there are diode lasers this day and age that can do severe harm to a person, and there's nothing that I would ever want to say that could lead to a person accidentally being harmed from technology that we're discussing. So thought I'd get that disclaimer out right away. Otherwise, we're going to continue on, and I do believe we left off with fiber lasers and how it was getting into the technological era of fiber optics due to this capability. So, sorry, I'm trying to figure out right where we had left off. I believe it was somewhere around, in the history, it was around 1970, with the advancements being made in fiber optics due to laser technology, and the glasses that were actually starting to be used, and no, not the things that sit on your nose so you can see better, the actual optical glass used for the fiber transmission. And I was hoping to have a video of some sort prepared, but I was unable to do my homework as well as I expected, so we'll just kind of keep going and chatting about the technology, how it developed, and what sort of fine and scientific instrumentation it has been used in since. So,
now,
obviously...
I'm reasonably... Andrew?
Go ahead, Squirrel.
Did we not stop on the video last week about the fiber optics?
Yeah, that was the conclusion, and
okay.
But I think that was kind of not in the history that Andy was giving. I think that video then, although it was very interesting, was kind of an anachronism, because that was much more recent. Is that right, Andy?
Indeed.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, so Andy, I believe, wants to pick up on the history where he left off.
Yes, fiber laser technology has come a phenomenally long way since, and since we're still back in the history world of laser development, it's only right, I think, to jump back to where we left off originally.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
So
let's do it.
So let's see. If we did leave off right around 1970 in the history of lasers, then, oh man, we haven't gotten to free electron lasers. We haven't gotten to barcode scanners. We have a lot to cover.
Indeed. And let us not forget the short-lived yet miraculous invention that you were mentioning just before the show, the predecessor to the DVD.
Oh, indeed. Rapid commercialization. Thank you, Laserdisc. We didn't like you at all. But your much smaller counterpart,
Well, we had
we did like.
the compact disc.
That we did.
Well, you started with the compact disc for audio, and then Laserdisc was introduced for video, and then everybody decided that those big ass Laserdiscs were just too big.
Yeah.
And they started working on the DVD standard.
They were fine
Mind
with
you,
the
we also
33
had
records.
VHS and Betamax during this period of time. While those don't involve lasers, the push towards DVD was actually what was in large part accelerated because those two were bulky and annoying. You couldn't just stack 20 or 30 of them in a pouch like you can now and walk down to your friend's house. That didn't happen.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Good.
Yeah. Welcome, RJ. Glad to have you with us.
Hey, RJ's here. Nice.
Greetings.
So in between that whole commercialization, obviously lasers were still being used for, viable scientific research, and one of the very interesting ones that I like that I'm not sure how well it's known about or whether a whole lot else was actually done with it. But back in 72, Bell Labs was actually able to, for the first time, use lasers to create electronic circuits on ceramic plates. And while it sounds like kind of pointless and not really that interesting of a thing, it is actually a pretty darn awesome thing, because if you've ever gone to the supermarket and bought anything since 1975, you have these awesome little barcodes that can be scanned, and that's thanks to the work that Bell Labs did on laser research and their ability to actually start using lasers for circuitry. I don't know exactly how it is that the two tie into each other. It's not my field of expertise, but
I could, Andy, if I may.
Yes,
I
absolutely. Excellent.
See, there's actually a couple different things that they were doing with these. We to this day still use lasers to etch electronic circuits. And the biggest thing that you had going for you in those terms was not the lasers themselves and the barcodes, but the electronics behind them, which were etched with very fine lasers. It's called miniaturization. They could use a laser to not only etch but dope the various bits, the various transistors that it was adding to the wafer. And you could do it much smaller and much more efficiently than previous methods.
Oh, very cool. As I hope everybody else gets something out of Sunday Science, I too intend to learn from this. So I'm not the college professor trying to preach that I know everything. I'm glad to have a good group of people here to help everybody learn.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Can I? One more thing. One more note, folks. Every electronic device you have would be much bigger without these lasers. Much bigger.
Indeed.
The computer that you have sitting, the computer you have sitting under your desk, if we're talking about a desktop or maybe in your lap in some cases, that wouldn't even be remotely possible without the use of lasers. And even if we could miniaturize to that point, there's no way it would be nearly powerful enough. So, thank the laser.
Indeed, laser technology has provided us with so much more than just playing with your cat.
Let's not downplay that.
Here's one you guys probably didn't know.
Yes.
There were two primary drivers for laser technology in the and they came in the 60s and the 80s. Can anybody guess what those two things are? Hint: they're related in some way.
Terry was more the upper trains.
Anybody know? RJ probably does. Or at least RJ may have may know. I'm not sure if the rest of you do.
I do not believe I am aware of what you were speaking of.
Okay. How about you? How about you, Cy?
No, I'm good with the dramatic pause, but let's go.
Okay. Well, I'll leave off the pregnant pause and quiz time. We had two different objects that did this. We had the moon race in its entirety, going forward from the Gemini program, which made the first use of them for range finding, and therefore the requirements to get them miniaturized so you could actually put one into space. And funnily enough, the larger driver of technology, and that was the Star Wars program that Reagan put together. It was funded, all the research got done, and then they wouldn't fund launches, but all that research was still there, and it was still made available.
Okay, those two I would not have. Okay, I would not have guessed those two. Definitely a win.
Well, we bounce lasers off the reflectors that were left by Apollo 12 all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're up there.
Oh yeah.
Apollo 12, Apollo 14, and Apollo 16 all had those reflectors. Actually, the Apollo 12 ones got wrecked when Apollo 13's S4B hit. We used the ones from Apollo 16 mostly.
Yeah, from everything I remember, it was. I thought it was 15s that we used the most.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure 16s, but you know what? Honestly, I could be wrong, and I'd rather be right than wrong. So if anybody actually comes up with that, let me know.
Well, we would all rather be right than wrong, but there's nothing wrong in being wrong.
Okay.
No,
that's the whole process of learning.
Wrong,
you have to be wrong in order to learn.
Being wrong is always an option.
RJ had a question. How about that big laser gold figure aimed at Bond's crotch in 1964? We're not sure where that was.
I don't think I actually saw. Huh?
That was not a Bell Labs project, as far as I recall. That laser.
Well,
it definitely wasn't a Michael Myers experiment.
Well, that's good, and it wasn't an M. Night Shyamalan movie either. Yes, I went there.
Oh, howdy, Sean. Glad to have you with us.
You know what? Maybe. Yeah, I think.
Hey, Sean, do you want to?
I think Sean needs an invite. That's what I think. That's just my thinking.
Sean could come in and talk about those. I'd be thrilled to hear it. Actually.
Absolutely.
Right. And here we go. For some reason, I thought Sean was working today. I don't remember. All right, well, see you when he's in. Here we go. Sean, Link, coming at you.
Turn it off, Colby.
There we go. Hopefully, Sean is available to join us. He might be working. He might just be responding on his phone.
That is very true. I've done moving that a few times through my phone.
Time to set up his audio. So that's good.
Okay then.
I don't even know if I want to actually try and get into free electron lasers, or if maybe we should make an episode just about those.
I think we could, honestly, free electron lasers, we could probably make a whole episode out of that and then some.
Technology is so substantially different from
what we would normally think of. Yes, and that would probably be a good reason to make a complete episode out of it at some point.
Indeed.
Because lasers are a very deep situation. The other thing we started to see in the 1970s was large lasers installed at observatories.
Well, you wouldn't be able to have adaptive optics without laser technology. And that, I know I'm jumping ahead about a decade, but
well, no, we started seeing the first one. I think was the first ones. I think were installed around about 75 or 76. I think. Don't quote me. Don't quote me. I think, if I remember correctly, it was a thing that actually happened in the 70s, because I remember the news stories. But I don't remember exactly when, because by the end of the 1970s, I was all of 8.
well, I don't remember 100% either. I thought it was the early 80s when adaptive optics first started to get into the telescope world in Hawaii.
Well, hello.
But again, I could be wrong.
Welcome, Sean.
It might be Hawaii.
Dealing with memories that are 30 some odd years old, you don't remember everything.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, long time no visit, man.
Welcome, Sean.
It's been a while. Work sucks, but outside
Yeah,
of it.
work always sucks. That's just the way it is. Speaking of, once we get out of here, I got to go do some work. That'll be fun.
Well, like I said in the chat, last week you guys talked a lot about cyclical lasers, but you didn't really talk about the propagation lasers, like your standard run-of-the-mill laser pointers and like the 3-watt lasers you can buy off the shelf. I'm not sure if
that is true indeed.
And it's really interesting how those work. I figured you guys would have touched on that, because that's the most common laser that people will ever see.
Well, we were basically
working
working our way through the history of, how it is that they came into existence, what sort of technology went into producing them. So your run-of-the-mill laser pointer, we just haven't quite got to yet. But there's so much history that takes place in the mid to late 70s through the 80s into the 90s that we may want to solidify on a single subject for a little while, as opposed to jumping around all of this technology. If we do stick with simply history, we might not ever leave the 70s.
No. Well, it's just the technology's changed so much, and it's so diverse depending on the application of it. It's almost disgusting, because there's so many different variations on the laser.
There really is.
The people hear laser and they just see, beam of light, but how that beam is generated varies from one laser to the next. And it's so wide now, it's really sickening. I couldn't even touch on all of the variations on the laser. I only know the 2. That's cyclical, which you guys did cover very well last week, which I'm very happy to say that I've watched part of that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
But you guys did do the little misconstruction of referring a lot to laser pointers, and those aren't cyclical. Those are propagation lasers.
Yes, you are correct. And that is something I discovered I discovered that myself after the show. I did not realize that was not a pulse laser. Sigh.
Well, Sean, would you care to fill us in?
Well, it's very, very simple and very elegant on the design. That's why they're so cheap. It is because you have your diode that actually starts to create the light pulse, and it actually goes through a one-way mirror. It hits another mirror on the other side that is semi-transparent, but it has to reach a certain energy state to be able to go through it. And it's just one little spot in the center of the mirror that allows light to go through. And it just keeps bouncing back and forth, building up energy until it exceeds that energy value, and then it shoots that, and then those photons are able to escape. It's really simple, really elegant, and it's really ingenious how they figured out how to do it. And that's all your laser pointer is.
That I read it. Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, No, I was just thinking that I had actually read in the early '80s a book, a children's level book of all things, on such a creature. I couldn't have been in more than about 3rd grade.
Yeah, these are the most basic of lasers you can get. I mean, the cyclical laser was like the high-end stuff where you're going to get like into the dozens of watts and higher. But a propagation laser, you'll never see more than 5 watts if you're lucky. You might be able to find one that's 10 watts, but you're going to burn the mirrors out really fast. That's why they lose focus really quick. And it's just really, really elegant the way that they figured it out, and it just amazes me that it actually works, to be honest.
Well, actually,
I would tend to agree.
The other thing I found out is that those were actually developed, that the propagation lasers were not actually assembled for commercial purposes. In fact, they were a military project for laser sighting.
Yeah. But I mean, now you go to Walmart, you go to the pet section, you'll find them everywhere. That's all it is a little tiny propagation laser. They're the cheapest to build. They require no cooling, you know.
They don't require much of anything, actually. But yeah, those were originally developed as for laser sighting for sniper rifles, of all things.
Yeah, well, that was always the fundamental
about
flaw with a laser pointer put on a sniper rifle, because it is a dead giveaway of where the shooter is.
Well, no, not really. Not unless you've got a lot of crap in the air, and then a sniper wouldn't want to be in that neighborhood anyway, for a number of reasons. But
anything that you're dealing with in the visible light spectrum, I mean, don't take my word for it. I'm not a military sniper by any means, but
not that he can
I
tell
would
us.
imagine any sort of light source is kind of a painful giveaway.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not just the particulate in the air that you got to worry about. You have to worry about something going and blocking the beam, and they'll be able to triangulate your position from that.
There are a lot of issues, and it doesn't surprise me that traditional optics are still the best way to go for shooting long distance. You're just going to want a good
on top of that,
rifle.
There's a reason. Going back to movie night last week with Jaron there and his little experiment, a week before last. There is a reason I know what the propagation length for what the spread length is for a laser. Believe me, I know all of these things.
Yeah, here's another fundamental difference between a cyclical and a propagation laser. A cyclical laser is not going to have very much in the divergence area. A propagation laser, by its design, is going to have some serious serious divergence.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. That's why Jaron's laser will not work.
Right.
Well, the entire test is designed for failure.
Actually, it's designed to have...
I mean, this isn't really a debunking show, so let's not get into.
I was going to say this isn't movie night, so let's just stick with the actual technology.
Okay. Back to the tech. We're good. I'm just saying.
Let the science continue.
Yes, flurfers have nothing to do with science. We don't need to talk about that.
Right. Low blow.
So man. What do we want to do? Fiber optics or more marketable consumer grade stuff? So I think it seems like we're kind of more on a consumer grade level discussion about lasers today. So
certainly that's going to be what everybody's going to be able to wrap their heads around quickly.
That's kind of why I brought up the propagation laser, because not anybody, people are going to have a really hard time understanding the cyclical laser.
Indeed, I agree with that.
And yes, I know this is a science show, but we have to remember that most of the internet, I hate to say, is lower educated.
Well, let's just say hasn't been exposed to various facets of science.
Well, there you go. But you don't want to start them off in the deep end. Start at the bottom, work your way up.
Indeed, I can't imagine there's a whole lot of. Well, I can't imagine that the vast majority of our viewer base has ever used a laser spectrometer or laser altimeter before. So,
well, probably not.
And as the education system seems to, I mean, as Squirrel mentioned in the third grade, reading a book about laser technology, I don't think you're going to see that happening in the third grade today. So I think you guys.
I checked it out of the library.
You guys have to pick up the slack.
I found it on the shelf of the library and pulled it out myself.
I kind of wish you would, because I can't imagine having grown up under different circumstances. I was so lucky to have a dad with a laboratory at the USGS, and some of the stuff that I thought of as toys, like going into the laser spectroscopy lab, I didn't think that was weird. I didn't think that was high tech. I didn't think there was anything abnormal about it. It was what you do when you go to work. You do this stuff.
These are tools, right?
Yeah, it wasn't fancy. It wasn't that interesting. And earlier this year, I actually wound up making new calibration tools for the newer version that they got. Not My dad's no longer around, so a different scientist is running that laboratory now, and it just so happened to be fate-wise that the company I was working for wound up being able to bid the job at the right price, and once again, I'm back in the USGS making calibration equipment for the laser spectroscopy, and I still don't think it's weird. I still don't think it's odd or abnormal. It's just an aspect of life that I deal with. So,
well, you want to talk
it is
about,
kind of unusual considering the average.
You want to talk about odd backgrounds? You just look at me. I'm the youngest of 7 kids between both my parents. My dad was the only one working, so he had a good job, but we were technically poor just because we had so many mouths to feed. My education was all self-learned. I mean, I was the book kid. My nose was always in a book until I was 15 years old. I never watched TV.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any encouragement. I didn't have any drive. I just couldn't stop reading. And
nothing wrong with that.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just talking about for my family background, I should not be as intelligent as I am.
And as knowledgeable. Let's not forget that, Sean.
Do what?
And as knowledgeable. Let's not forget that.
Well, yeah, but again, I'm basically a walking encyclopedia, and that's just because I stuck my nose in a book for 15 years. I was actually reading the Encyclopedia Britannica by the time I was 3.
Impressive.
And that's all I loved to do was read. And once I started watching TV, I actually started to do some practical applications of the stuff that I learned. So yeah, I mean, I've had a very, very knowledgeable upbringing incurred upon myself.
I would like to have such a claim, Sean. Oh, I didn't. There was more. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all right.
Okay, all right. I did not make the conscious choice that you did. In addition to regular education, to just absorb reading material. Prior to any form of schooling, see, I had 3 older sisters, and 3 older sisters happened to be in possession of a device that my parents had, which I believe was made sometime in the 40s or 50s. The small. Do you remember those cassette tape recorders that were sort of large and rectangular, had the 5 buttons, and they went like clunk when you hit them to record on the cassette tapes? It was about that size. It was a wind-up device, and it had a glass window in the middle, and it had scrolls, and upon these scrolls were written stories. Just stories. Nothing complicated. Small words on some, graduating up to larger words on the others. And you'd wind it up and put these scrolls in, and the words would scroll past the window, and you had to read before they disappeared at the bottom of the window. Somehow my 3 older sisters came into possession of this device before I was off to nursery school, and that was it. They decided the boy shall read. They decided. Anyway, all right, enough. I have dragged us far enough off topic. I apologize, Andy.
Oh, not a problem. Like I say, I didn't do as much homework this week as I should. Some other things came up through SSF, and I just wasn't able to get around to all of the homework I should have done. So a little bit of banter is not going to impede what we're doing.
Alrighty. All right, so did you say we were...
Sorry, I scrolled way too far out of nowhere. My apologies.
So, more. Let's see. Are we continuing on from the laser disc into the consumer area now?
I do believe that's where we're going. So we're definitely going to be talking much more about diode lasers, which I'm glad I did the little preface at the beginning of the show that diode lasers, this day and age, don't stick your hand in front of them. Don't do stupid stuff. I apologize for not having mentioned that prior.
Oh, the newest ones that are like 5 watts? Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, not handy.
The 1/1000th of a watt initial existence of a diode laser. Don't look at it, but sure, you could put your hand in front of it. You're good. Yes. But no, don't do stupid stuff with lasers. Don't look at them. I mean, don't shine them in your eye.
Indeed.
Read the safety manual that came with the freaking laser, dang it.
And please don't point them at your pet's eyes either. They're just as sensitive as yours, and you will harm them.
Indeed. It might be fun to play with a laser pointer with your pets, and I do it myself, but the laser pointer goes to one end of the yard and then it turns off and disappears. It doesn't ever come back because they're looking at it, and I know it might actually hurt them. So take care when playing with lasers. They're fun, they're enjoyable, but don't do stupid stuff.
Do not point the laser pointer between the cat's eyes. He will be pissed off at you permanently.
All right.
Indeed.
What?
So, obviously, since they're not around, and I don't even know if you could find one on an antiquing trip, laser discs didn't quite work out.
I remember those. I used to have one a long time ago. Only had one disc for it.
Yeah, they were.
I only had one disc for it.
They were pretty darn cool
Brown
when they
Christmas
came
special.
out. I mean, it was pretty amazing, and I mean, CDs came out the exact same year. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
there was.
Yep, and they killed the whole
one came
laser
out
disc.
before the other, but yeah, the laser disc didn't. Like anything with consumer goods, one thing's going to win, the other thing's not going to win, and
who made? Let's see. Who made?
it's
Blu-ray,
kind of
HD,
surprising
DVD.
because I still. Sorry, we're starting to overtalk a little bit, and that's
I was-
frowned upon. You want to re-say what you were saying, Sean?
I was just doing the comparison of the more recent Blu-ray HD DVD fiasco.
Ah,
You know, two competing mediums and Blu-ray one.
indeed. I actually had an HD.
They actually
DVD
made
player.
it for the They actually made it for the Xbox 360. But of course, Blu-ray one.
Yep.
Now, normally anything Sony backs fails. Is that correct in these races?
Normally yes, but with Blu-ray, Sony won.
That's why I was confused by that. And
Do you want to know how Sony won?
how would that
Better
be?
marketing.
I can tell you.
I know the answer to this, and there might be children watching, so
Well, no, there are. It's actually I can keep this one clean.
okay.
Okay. First off, Sony makes those. Sony were the ones that were making those drives initially, and therefore they could keep the prices down in ways that the HD DVD folks could not. Along the same lines, they worked their little magic and got most of the video rental chains that still dealt in discs, Blockbuster being one of the bigger ones, to operate in DVD or operate in Blu-ray rather than HD DVD. HD DVD disappeared from the shelves and promptly thereafter died a hideous death. Microsoft could not save it. Never mind that they tried; they just couldn't do it. It wasn't possible.
Oh, and RJ mentions in the chat that Disney apparently he says Blu-ray had the Disney product line, so Disney was exclusively Blu-ray.
Disney did experiment a little bit with HD DVD, and they decided that not only were the costs to make those discs too high, but they couldn't price them any higher than they could a Blu-ray disc because the Blu-ray disc would simply outsell it. Also note that the technology to play them was also significantly more expensive. Microsoft's HD DVD player for the Xbox 360 was actually subsidized by Microsoft.
Yeah,
They were taking a nasty loss on those. I refused. I
almost did.
Well, I figured it this way. By the time the HD DVD showed up, I already had my hands on a PlayStation 3, and I liked that quite a bit better. Somebody showed me what a movie looked like on an HD DVD player, and I went, yeah, here's Blu-ray.
Well, seeing as we jumped a couple of decades.
And then the difference between the price tag of the PlayStation 3 at launch and the price tag of the PlayStation 4 at launch is really just a matter of installed base for Blu-ray. They managed to sell enough of them to completely finance the research and development phase, and as such, the prices went and they dropped out. So rather than a $700 or an $800 PlayStation 3, we got a $400 PlayStation 4. Haha.
Well,
Okay,
technically, in the timeline, the Atari just started hitting the marketplace, so we might be talking about stuff that doesn't exist quite yet.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. We can retread that territory in a couple of weeks.
And
but yeah,
when we
can
move
go back to
forward
the
in
Atari
history,
600.
when we do move forward in history a couple of decades, which, as I mentioned, it seemed we had jumped, we might want to mention, just because some viewers may be unaware of the significance of the name Blu-ray, that it's not just a cool name. You know, the changing of the use of a different frequency of light and all that sort of thing. So anyway, all right, carry on.
And the ability to shift to switch focal lengths much deeper into a disc than you could with any DVD. Dual layer DVDs could only handle 2, whereas a Blu-ray can handle up to 6 or 8. No, it's 8.
Now, speaking of the laser on a Blu-ray, doesn't it actually have like 7 focal points or 7 beams that can focus on any one of the layers on the DVD?
I haven't actually taken one apart and played with that aspect yet. I'm not sure.
Because I know it's more than.
Well, it was actually
it's a single beam emitter, but it actually uses a splitter to.
I know it uses a splitter. I have no idea how it is that aspect of the mechanism works, though.
But I know that it focuses by changing the angle on the splitters, so it actually gets a different cone shape to the beam.
Mm-hmm.
That way, it can focus on the back platter, which is like right below the DVD label, and then it's got like up to 8 more layers closer to the laser emitter, and depending on how it focuses, it'll pick which layer it's trying to read off of.
And actually, the only point I was making was that the blue actually relating to the color, and blue obviously having a shorter wavelength also means a smaller wave height is necessary, and that's why they could make use of the smaller pits and stuff of that sort. I had
they can also spin the disc faster if they want to.
Okay, now there's another anachronism. Okay, Andy, you were saying back to the late 70s, early 80s.
Well, this does definitely seem to be more of a general conversation as opposed to a little bit of a script type show. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up one of the ones that I'm absolutely fascinated with and kind of see where it goes. And that's back in the early 80s, MIT. I don't know who it was at MIT, but I remember reading about it, had first developed the titanium sapphire laser, which, since there were so many comments last weekend about Star Wars type pulse weapons, we are actually finally talking about, well, short duration burst lasers with the titanium sapphire laser that you might not kill everybody.
No, actually, those there you could do a fairly good focus. You could wipe out a house on a city block if you wanted to.
You definitely couldn't fit it into a handheld instrument. So Star Wars, you're still going to have to wait another couple of generations. But in order to get the timing down, one of the actual point that I would like to bring up is more of the timing mechanisms involved. In order to actually produce such a short length beam as opposed to a continuous beam. I'm not sure myself because again, like I say, I didn't do my homework. I'm wondering if anybody else here on the panel today has any more information on how it is that we were able, how it is MIT was able to actually make such a short burst high power laser.
Was that not related? If I'm thinking of the right thing, which I may not, and you guys please correct me if I'm wrong, because I love being wrong because I learned something. But was that not because that was a single-use device, was it not? Or am I thinking of the wrong laser?
I believe you're thinking of the wrong laser.
Okay, all right. Okay.
The titanium sapphire laser was not necessarily a destructive laser.
I thought
you couldn't use it very often. But you could, in fact, use it more than once. There were a few more. Most of them gas based.
Mm-hmm. Okay, for some reason I was thinking that was the one.
You could use there was one I think that they used that they actually managed to freeze a gas that would normally not, that you would with some difficulty. It was essentially just a stick of very, very, very cold ice that they used for one, and it did all kinds of fun. But
Was that the helium argon?
Yes, sir. It was. It was the helium argon laser, and not only was it expensive to make the samples, whilst you could get a considerable amount of power out of the beam, there was absolutely no way you were going to get a second shot. Not without the ability to replace them and keep the samples cold.
Alrighty.
And awkward silence ensues.
Indeed. That's the best kind.
Pregnant pauses.
All right.
Okay.
So, what do we have after that? We do have some. This isn't technically consumer grade, but it's the beginning of consumer grade with where we left off yesterday, or not yesterday, last week.
Last week.
And I honestly, I have no idea why so much of this work developed out of England, but a lot of fiber optic technology was born out of England, and it's pretty phenomenal, some of the stuff that they wound up doing. It was David Payne, I believe, that first introduced the erbium-doped fiber amplifiers that started to allow fiber optics to really function the way that we kind of wanted them and hoped that they would be able to function. Oh man, everything about fiber optics is a little bit weird to think about. You're using light to create an electrical signal. That's just weird. It's still weird in my head today. I don't do good with fiber optics. I've been trying my darndest to learn as much about them as I can, but fiber optics are just kind of a weird thing, and I recall reading a few weeks ago about David Payne, I believe at the Southampton University in England, and his new amplifiers actually, I believe, part of the reason why we now actually have the internet. So well, it's not necessarily a consumer laser, but it is a consumer product brought to us by lasing technology.
Well, here's the thing. For the internet to be as large as this, fiber optics is required. However, originally it was all transmitted over copper. Now, do you know where? Can anybody tell? Here's quiz number 2, folks, and I'll give this one, and the chat can take advantage if they so choose. Maybe I'll beat Sci up and make him send an oven mitt to whoever it is that turns out to be right. Okay. Does anybody remember? Okay. First off, we should all know by now what glass is actually made of. Yes?
Indeed.
Indeed.
Okay. So, what technology actually enabled the British to make the fiber optics? It's the development of a specific technology here in the United States.
I would guess synthesizing quartz.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
I'm fine with being wrong.
Nope. Keep trying. I'll give you a hint. It is also critical to just about everything we do. And goes back to something I said earlier. No, please, it was not ceramics. Ceramics is a much older thing. And that's not quite what we're looking at.
Well, you have me beat.
Come on. Somebody's got it. I know someone's got this.
RJ must be holding back because he's a ringer, you know. He's. Did you know that's the one? Wait till you see the next one scroll up. This is the one. This has to be this. It's that, isn't it?
No,
what technology?
That was a Russian invention, and it happened way back there. Nope. We're still looking at a thing that happened during the 20th century.
For the production.
RJ doesn't know. I'm surprised.
Watch after the announcement.
Yeah, you had me beat on this one.
After it's announced, he's going to say, "Oh, that I didn't know that's what you meant."
There we go. I got it.
That's it.
There we go, Mr. Evans. You are correct.
How is that related?
P-to-N doped silicon. Yes, the transistor, folks. The transistor is in fact our critter.
Okay.
It wasn't the thing that they made, or the technology that led immediately to the transistor, was the same thing that they used. It's because it's still silicon doping. Okay, you're still doping silicon both ways, but the transistor and the science behind it were the things that they used to work out how to make doped glass over long distances. Okay. Without that first piece of technology, the second is not possible.
See, I was not going to pull those two together. That's
yep, nope, not at all.
And I think Andy was at least mildly familiar with that invention. It's just in my head, I did not make the association.
I knew it was something about silicon, but I didn't know it was doped.
After having brought up synthetic quartz glass as a potential, I did start thinking about transistor technology, but I definitely didn't get all the way to a particular method of doping silicon.
It was the doping. It was the doping of silicon that enabled enables the transistor to work at all. That is actually the core science behind it. A little bit of quantum mechanics for you folks. Now, Mr. Alan Evans apparently has one. What does he? Can I beat you over the head and make you send him an oven mitt, or do we need to work out something else?
No, that's fine. Certainly, that would be fine. It's just as long as everyone understands the significance, because this is a completely different show. The purpose of the oven mitt.
Indeed, it is a completely different show, but
the purpose of the oven mitt is not for cooking. It is in fact for facial protection. In the event that you're watching some really
anybody that watches this show probably watches us on Friday night anyway.
Just in case there's someone here that does not, if you happen to be listening to some really ridiculous pseudoscience, it's to provide a little protection from the face palming, so there's no actual facial damage. So, that's no objection.
I wouldn't do to have broken noses because of an atomic face palm.
Right. So, let me just add that to the list. And, very good. Alan Evans is
that's
on,
okay.
is on the list.
I could have sent him a Steam game just as easily, but I got lots of those just hanging around.
Got it. All right, Alan, there'll be an email address. There's an email address at the end of the thing.
I would present a graphical representation of what those oven mitts are for, but I don't want to steal a presentation from you.
All right.
I have it pulled up right now.
You want to share here? If you want to share, by all means.
You're welcome to.
Okay, I'll share it. I will share. Where's my window at? It's not showing the window. I'm going to have to do entire thing. So let me pull that up over that. So it's out of the way.
Notice how picky Hangouts is with what it will show and what it won't.
I just don't want it to show.
By the way, that's what the alcohol is for.
Yes.
Are you seeing that?
Where?
Uh,
We are not. Hold on.
Not yet.
Let me pin the display to you. No, you're not. I don't think you're sharing.
nope, not showing.
Oh, it's because I haven't hit the share button yet. There we go.
Ah, there it is.
There we go.
Ta-da!
This is
That's what the oven mitt's for.
this
That is the purpose of the oven mitt.
indeed. Sean, is that your birthday drone?
That's my birthday drone.
Rocking.
I'm still waiting on that. I understand Jared might have that right now.
Not yet. Not yet. I believe. I believe he's got to provide a shipping address and a. I never made the web form. That's right. I got to make a web form on the website for anybody that requires it for any specific purpose. All right. Well, thank you for having that image ready. Nice.
I have that image ready for everything. You need to present yourself again, by the way.
I should have gone down to join you guys for the eclipse.
You shoulda, woulda, coulda. We offered it, didn't we?
I know. You did.
All right.
Indeed, you were most gracious with
So,
your
with
your invitations.
I went to Wyoming instead.
With that fun little side note out of the way, we should continue.
Indeed. All right.
So we're.
Don't
Well,
worry,
I mean,
don't worry, Andy. There's another one in 7 years that everybody's invited to again to my parents' house in Ohio
Woohoo!
Sean's got family in all the good places.
because they're going to have 4 minutes of totality.
Oh my!
Ooh.
Yeah, that'll be a
That'll
good
be-
one.
And we're not going to have that time zone issue.
No, we will not have the time zone issue.
Yeah, what was up with that? It was like in the valley, it's one time zone. On the mountain, it was the other time zone.
Yeah,
Or
but
something ridiculously close like that.
the time zone line is like right between my aunt's house and a little city called Crossville. And where my aunt's house is located is right between 2 cell phone towers. One is on Central Time, one is on Eastern Time. So at random points at any time, your phone can switch time zones.
That's right. It was the cell tower issue. I remember that now.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. But thank the Flying Spaghetti Monster we had that issue, because Sean, did that not give us a dry run to discover a few hiccups in our process?
That did give us a dry run to hammer out a couple last minute hiccups because our phones all switched over to Central Time, so we ended up being an hour off from the eclipse. We started recording an hour early, and we had some issues. Thank goodness we had that time zone issue to catch them.
Indeed, filming an hour early is a lot better than an hour late.
It could have gone the other
Or
way.
screwing things up right as it starts to happen.
Yeah,
Right.
agreed.
So we had the dry run. We caught a couple of hiccups, and we got great footage after that when the eclipse actually happened.
Earthshine. Earthshine.
You guys got
I just want to say
absolutely
Earthshine.
phenomenal footage there.
I just want to say Earthshine again. Is that okay? Do you mind if I say it again, Sean?
Say it. You can say it all you want. I love those shots.
Earthshine. We. that was and I will repeat. Just Sean's getting tired of hearing it. That was a hell of a team, and it was an honor for me to be present with all of those people. Anyway. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, but I think I was the only one to break down in tears about how grateful I was everybody showed up.
Well, it was.
Yeah, I should have gone. Wyoming was fun and all, but
You missed the eclipse cake.
You missed the eclipse cake.
We had an actual
I
eclipse.
didn't know there
cake.
was cake. Had you have told me there was cake,
The cake was not a lie.
No, the cake.
I was never told there was going to be cake. I was just told there'd be an eclipse.
There are always surprises.
To be fair, we didn't know there was going to be eclipse cake until our 4th trip to Walmart, Si?
4th or 5th, I'm not sure which. When?
I think it was the 4th.
Okay. Yeah, that was also the beer run, as I recall.
Right, because we didn't get it on the drone trip.
Right.
Hey, you didn't go for a moonshine run?
He was offered moonshine.
Oddly enough, didn't need to.
Okay, at least you were offered moonshine.
Yeah, moonshine was offered. Everybody said no.
I forgot. No, I was going to say absolutely, because think of that. I mean, think of movie night. I would be 5 minutes in, I'd be out. I'd be Hillel.
Yeah, you would be drinking out of the eyedropper of truth.
Yeah. Okay. No lasers. There are no lasers present.
All right. No,
Oh, the
I'm
eyedropper of
sorry.
truth. That's a great one.
Now, since Hillel is not present for this particular show, I will fill in for him. Hey, Sai, isn't this supposed to be a science show? Okay. Back
Alcohol in science.
Okay, that it is.
In
So
fact,
it's
one could
alcohol
actually levy the argument that societies first started leaving the hunter-gatherer world and started farming in order to produce that much more grain so that they could produce that much more alcohol.
I figured it was also heavily involved in the formation of the first city-states, because without alcohol, people really couldn't tolerate each other for very long.
If I can interject, unless we're talking about the refractive index of light using a laser through alcohol, I think we need to back on lasers.
Okay, back to lasers.
All right, back to lasers.
Hey, Andy's going to be...
we diverged considerably.
Oh,
We've diverged considerably, but we still haven't left the 80s. There's still a very notable point that happened in the late 80s.
I see what you did there. And we're talking about lasers, and you mentioned divergence.
It happened.
You clever bastard, you. Okay, Andy, back to you. Sorry.
So it took about 30 years or so, but finally the patent war that we were talking about last week was resolved, and Gould finally actually started receiving royalties for his patent at the end of the 80s. Just had to bring that one up. 30-year patent war. Can you imagine being in that kind of a struggle?
I can imagine the check that showed up afterwards. Holy crap.
Hopefully it paid for his attorney's fees.
More than.
That's
I
the problem.
doubt it, actually.
That's a problem.
Well,
There
were a great number of attorneys that made their entire careers on that case.
That sounds
I mean,
like
that was the only. They took when the case was taken, they were just getting out of law school as like junior associates, and by the time it was over, they were running the shop. Just wow.
That sounds like the kind of thing where winning is not really winning. You'll win the case and you'll have your patent, but you'll still be down several $100,000. Huh. Oh well.
Well,
Also,
one of the next mammoth leaps in technology, since I thought we were going to do more consumer, but every time we talk about consumer stuff, we don't stick with the times. We keep jumping forward. So I'll at least get into the 1990s, hopefully, and bring up the very first quantum cascade laser.
Ooh.
Aha.
Indeed. Now, this is one that I'm still... I still have kind of a difficult time wrapping my head around how it is exactly that this works. But it is pretty amazing to think about a laser that's capable of producing beams in multiple wavelengths simultaneously. And that's exactly what the quantum cascade laser does. And once again, our friends at Bell Labs, they really like pushing this technology. They're really good at it.
Well, Bell Labs pushed most technology, to be honest.
Well, there aren't a whole lot of firms that are research-based anymore, so...
I'm sorry, since we're saying...
When you're a successful research-based firm, I would hope to see a lot of results from you.
And if in Bell Labs, where were they based again? Say it.
Aren't they in New Jersey?
Yeah, there we go. Woohoo, New Jersey. Sorry.
That's because Alexander Graham Bell was based in New Jersey.
Anyway. You guys were criticizing New Jersey. I just wanted to throw that in there.
As far as the fact that it came into creation in the early 90s, I actually do not understand very much about the quantum cascade laser.
I've never heard of it, so I'm out of my element on this one.
Don't look at me. I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
I'm out. I've heard of them. I've heard that they've been put to some rather interesting uses, but I don't know anything about the technology. I just don't.
I know it's a semiconductor laser. I know that it's capable of producing multiple beams of multiple wavelengths, and that it does have... Thankfully, I did have one friend that PhD in chemistry from the School of Mines, and the whole reason I even know about the quantum cascade laser is that he happens to operate one for a company he was never allowed to disclose anything about, but he does operate one, and he utilizes it for doing analysis of protoplanets and their atmospheric makeup.
Well, let's
so not really dealing with exoplanets, but smaller nearby stuff, dealing with well, like I say, protoplanets and asteroids, things of that nature. But that's the technology that he's using to actually determine the chemical makeup of extraterrestrial atmospheres. And I had to throw that one in because that is one of the most amazing things that we are capable of doing with lasing technology, as far as I am concerned.
Well, how dare you give me a homework assignment? Now I got to look them up.
Well, wait a minute. If I may be able to, if memory serves, quantum cascade lasers, the difference is they're unipolar, and laser emission is achieved through inter subband transitions in a repeated stack of semiconductor multiple quantum well heterostructures, which is an idea first proposed in the paper. Doesn't it sound like this is coming straight from memory?
No, not so much.
No, I would imagine not. I'm glad Andy brought that one up because I find this very interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to spend a couple days actually doing some research on it before I actually discuss about it.
Yeah, me too. I actually just found a whole batch of papers on this.
So how about
quantum cascade lasers are a very interesting thing. I was hoping to at least get towards the end of the show and have some people scratching their heads.
You did.
Going, I need to look at this.
You succeeded.
Most definitely.
You have definitely succeeded, sir, because now I have to go look that up.
Excellent. All four panelists need to do more research. That means we have succeeded.
Okay, guys, I have some warnings for you. There will be math.
There will be what?
There will be math.
I missed that.
So there'll be that day-to-day irritation that is life?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
All right, cool.
I like math. I didn't like math when I was in school, but as soon as I wasn't in school, I fell in love with math like it was that naughty teacher that you shouldn't actually have a crush on.
Well, one question, Cy. That math that you're looking at, is it actually have some values, or are they all variables?
Every damn one of them's a variable, and I'm hoping as I dig deeper, I'm going to get where I source values from. But, and yes, Andy, I will have to thank you. You are contributing to my continuing education. This is a subject
that's
about which...
If I can do one positive thing in this world, it's getting people to think and learn and experience new stuff.
Yeah, but now I got to delete stuff out of my brain to fit more room.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. You just have to figure out ways of storing information in other areas.
My brain's a filing cabinet.
You might want to skip a movie night, though, if you want to keep the brain cells necessary to store.
Well, then you're apparently like Johnny Mnemonics. You're in dire need of a memory upgrade.
Unfortunately, but that's the whole thing. You get the memory upgrade, and you walk out the doors, it's already obsolete.
Get it at Best Buy. They've got the oh wow! I wonder if that's product placement.
I'm not going with Geek Squad.
No. They've got the technology guarantee.
Yeah, they don't. They don't.
All right.
Okay. Cy, you see your
could
box.
Probably get better tech support from the parking lot of Micro Center.
That's also probably wrong.
I'll go ask an Apple Genius.
I think you would. Yeah, no. The guy you want to ask is the guy panhandling in front of your local Safeway, because you'll still get better than Geek Squad.
Okay. On a good and a bad note, Andy, thank you, and bite me for making me have to do homework.
You're welcome, and you're welcome.
Okay. This is,
it's sounding like they're. We might need to do some more research for next week's continuation of this show and start taking well, we obviously all need to do some homework.
I would say so.
Yes. Well, the homework has already started, you see.
Yeah, that's...
Well, homework's an active thing. It's not like you start it when you actually get home. That would be a waste of resources.
Well, I'm still at home, you see.
Well, so am I.
Yeah, but when I start talking quantum physics while I'm at work at Walmart, people just give those blank deer in the headlight stares at me.
Well, considering deer in the headlight stare you got from us right here, it's probably time that we went and did our own homework.
Yeah, but here's the difference. When we don't know something, we're not afraid to admit it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So I don't know. What? Yeah,
like I said,
no.
I've never heard of them, but I'll be glad to look them up. It won't take me long to actually figure them out, but we'll see what happens. I love reverse engineering.
Ooh, we can use the Schrödinger equation on this. This is actually good.
Also, it creates light and it doesn't until you can actually see it.
What if it creates light that's outside of the visual spectrum? Does it still create light?
Absolutely.
Well, yes.
Thank you. Electromagnetic radiation does not care about the human eye.
If we're gonna get all kinds of broad definition about it, radio waves are light too. Then
You are correct.
You are correct.
Let's see here.
All electromagnetic radiation is a variation is light.
That's how
When
the
you
world
look at
of
it.
amazing started with the world of amazing.
QCLs currently cover the wavelength range from 2.63 micrometers or microns all the way up to 250 microns. And if you apply a magnetic field to it, you get up to 355, which is fun.
Holy, oh my, Andy, we used up the hour.
That's my fault. I'm sorry.
Oh no, not we're happy you joined.
No, I'm glad to have you here with us, Sean.
It's almost as much my fault as it is yours, Sean. So,
well, Cy was asking what time I get off work. Every Sunday I get off work at 3 p.m. Eastern. So you guys don't start until I'm home for like 2 hours.
Okay, then you will get a link every time, and at your discretion, if you are able to join and wish to, you're always invited.
Absolutely.
Depends on the topic. If I don't know anything at all about the topic, I probably won't join because I'll just drag everybody down to my level. I'll just learn in the chat.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not going to say.
I'm hosting the show, and I don't know half as much about what I'm talking about as I believe I do sometimes. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with being on the show and learning simultaneously.
Okay.
Agreed. So
if you're not learning, what are you doing with life?
I think
you're wasting it.
But I think it's for the wrong show.
All right.
We'll bring that up. We'll bring that up on Friday. It'll be great.
As long as we bring it up early, so we remember what we brought it up.
Indeed, the last couple of Fridays, I haven't quite made it to the end of the show.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I wake up at 4 in the morning, so the show is ending as I'm waking up.
Yeah,
so.
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
If we're lucky. This last time it didn't. It was like 4.5 hours.
We were still there.
4.5 hours. Unbelievable.
Oh, Sean, since you are on here, I wanted to let you know part of where this show is going is utilizing lasers in a home setup to, I'm going to be rebuilding the Cavendish mechanism that I built in my basement.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
And that's going to, instead of just doing the basic weights and filming, I am actually going to attach mirrors to the ends of the weights. And I will be using, well, basically a laser pointer to measure the distance traveled to help in calculating the torsional resistance of the copper wire that the whole mechanism is suspended from.
Advice on that? you're not going to want the weights or the mirrors at the ends of the weights. You're actually going to want them as close to the center balance as possible. That way,
I was thinking about
yes.
that one. That's the traditional mechanism, is to have the mirror right at the center point of rotation so you can measure the angle. I wanted to try something a little bit different, so I might, who knows, maybe I'll make 2 of them. I have several 1 meter sticks. They're
the problem with putting the mirror at the end of the weights, though, is since you're using a laser beam, it's going to have a very small cross section for the laser to actually contact the mirror. As the torsion balance travels.
Indeed.
That's why you want the mirror to be as stationary as possible compared to the rotation.
And
hell, I'll make 3 of them. Screw it.
Hey, Andy, there's no reason why you couldn't do both concurrently. There's no reason not to have 2 lasers involved.
I like building experiments. I'm willing to give every end of that a shot because there is consistency with the Cavendish.
If you're dead set on putting one at the end of the weights, I wouldn't put it on the outside edge. I would actually have it sitting on the top or attached to the bottom and facing, and the mirror lined up with the actual bar, and then the beam coming from the side. You know, don't point the beam towards from the outside towards the inside of the experiment. That way you don't have to worry about adjusting the beam ever throughout the experiment. Because once you start adjusting the beam, you actually start throwing readings off.
Indeed. After initial calibration, you can't.
I'll actually set up a diagram to pass off to you to demonstrate what I'm talking about.
Excellent. Yeah, I think you and I are looking at this from 2 different perspectives. So that would be absolutely awesome if you would shoot that up.
It's just if the back of the mirror is facing the center of the experiment, you're not going to get much in the way of any kind of readings as the beam's coming towards from the outside towards the center, because it's going to be a very small cross section.
Indeed.
All right. Well, seeing as the time is we've exceeded our standard time, what say we Simple Science link will be provided, and it will be uploaded. There, see, I'm trying to make it sound like we ran out of time. Not that it's still rendering as we speak, right, Andy?
Hey, you're the one that said it, not me. I was totally fine with the we ran out of time, it'll be uploaded.
Yeah, you know.
I was running with that, Cy.
You know what?
I was running with it.
One thing you have to know by now is I kind of suck at dishonesty. Yes, I'll lie to you, but within 8 seconds I'll tell you that I was lying, and here's the truth. Rendering.
Well, actually, technically that wouldn't be a lie because you ran out of rendering. You ran out of time while it was rendering. But technically, you're still being out of time.
You know what? That's correct. All right. Well, then we've got everything. Everything's out in the open. Life is good. All righty. Well, let's.
Oh,
see.
Glad to have you join us, Sean. Honor to have you on the show with us. You are a very insightful individual, and look forward to having you back in future episodes.
All right, I'll do my best.
Awesome.
Alrighty.
Anything else?
Nope, I'm it.
I got nothing.
Alrighty.
I'm out.
Alrighty then.
You still got me on quantum lasers.
That
Hey.
I was not displeased with that.
Homework. I have no problem assigning homework.
Very good.
Well, we've got some now.
All right. Is it closing time?
I believe it
believe
just
so.
might be.
All right. Here comes the closing. Nice work, Andy.
Thank you, sir. Might I say real quick, while we're in our closing credits, possibly a moment of silence for our fallen ScienceStrikeforce member, Gary.
What happened?
Oh, you know what? Let's stop this. Good call, Andy.
It appears from all of the diligent work from all of the fine people in ScienceStrikeforce on G+, It would appear as though we have lost a long-standing member and a very good friend in Gary. He did have some issues with his heart and was dealing with some issues there, and we believe from the research we were able to conduct and the month of no contact from a very active member that he has passed, and he has left this planet to go and gallivant with the stars and become one with the stardust again.
Indeed, a sad thing. He's been with ScienceStrikeforce since the beginning, so it's kind of a shock to hear.
Sorry to hear that. I don't think I've ever known him personally, but it's, loss of life anywhere.
I know. Well, I knew him only by reputation and some of the stuff that he actually left written.
Gary was a very, very intelligent individual. He'll definitely be missed. His presence is already noticed, not being around anymore.
Then I totally agree with the moment of silence.
So shall it be.
Well, shall we finish our...
Indeed. And
finish our closing?
Indeed, and thank you for bringing that up, Andy. Okay, back to the closing.
Up the closing music, jeez.
I was just getting into it.
It is kind of a long closing music sequence, so maybe I should have picked something a little shorter.
Well, you were very impressed with it. That's why we do the whole thing.
I still do really like it. It's a...
Hell, I always do the whole
The
mud
individual
song.
who composed this did a phenomenal job.
Oh, I will not disclose it yet, but one of our oven mitt recipients contributed some music, composed and contributed some music that will soon be part of Friday nights.
Very cool.
I thought that was a great thing that somebody is that much on the team that they went to that effort to do so.
Definitely.
That would be
awesome.
fun, I think.
We're still live, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just for
Every now and then you gotta ask.
Oh.